Welcome, everybody. As you know, my name's Lou. Welcome back to what some people are calling episode 7 of Brits and Yanks Talk Trek. This is a podcast for Trekkies, Trekkers, and absolutely everything in between. Brought together with a love of a little game called Star Trek Fleet Command. This is not just a podcast for STFC players, though. However, this is going to be talking about Star Trek in general. We're also going to be exploring a topic about the cultural differences between the US and the UK. We want this to be a community, so we want you to get involved. So please share with us any ideas that you want for topics, anything that you think that you'd love the Brits and Yanks Talk Trek team to talk about in the future. Please join our Discord. Link to that is in the description of the episode, and give us some ideas and obviously give us some feedback as well. I ask everybody to do this at the start of every show now. Do me a favor and share this out with one of your friends. Share this out with somebody that you know that you like Star Trek, another member of your alliance if you're here from STFC. Consider becoming a member as well. Itslube.com, you have the option of becoming a member of the podcast, and you're going to get your name read at the end of every single episode. And it just helps support the channel, helps support the podcast, and helps us grow from strength to strength. And obviously, leave us a 6 out of 5 star review on iTunes. Let's go through the panel. Let's see who's here. Obviously, I'm here, as we know. We've got Mr. Perfection himself. We have got Silvus. How are you today, Silvus? How's your day been?
I'm doing all right. How are you doing, Lube?
Absolutely marvellous. Thank you very much. We've got the storyteller himself. We've got Stewie Doo. How are you?
Excited.
I'm very excited. He's looking forward to this one, but you can never tell if Stewie's actually being sarcastic or whether there is actually genuine excitement in his voice, because his voice only has one tone, which is why he's fantastic at telling stories. We've got the Tribble Mother. Minnie, have you got over Sunday yet? England crashing out of the Euros in the final.
Oh, didn't we do well at losing?
We did. We were outstanding at it. Do you know what? We might be the best runners up at everything that we ever try and do.
And you just had to bring it up.
I didn't want to bring it up on the last one because it was a little bit raw last time we recorded it, so I didn't want to mention it.
It was too soon.
And we have got a very special guest with us today. We have got somebody who is a master of sliding in between your sheets. We have got JulesVern himself, the creator of most of the amazing spreadsheets that we see here in Star Trek Fleet Command. Welcome, Jules. Welcome to Brits and Yanks Talk Trek. What made you want to come and join this almighty rabble and join us for a bit of a conversation today?
Silvus has blackmail on me.
Do you know what? I believe that, but I also know he's tight, and I know he would have paid you, so he must have blackmailed you with something else.
I cannot reveal that information at this time.
I can.
Well, it's really good to have you. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm really looking forward to seeing your input on some of the topics that we've got today. And as we always do, we're going to dive into our STFC topic. Now, what I've asked the panel to consider today is, what loops would you prioritise over others, and why? Now, I'll give you a bit of background into this particular question. What I was thinking when I came up with this was, let's say you was restricted for time. Let's say you only had an hour, and half an hour of that was completing your dailies, 15 minutes of that was maybe doing events. You've got 15, 20 minutes, half an hour. What would you prioritize over everything else? What is the loop that has the payout? What is the particular activity? It doesn't even need to necessarily be a loop when we're considering maybe the lower players. Would you go out and do rep grinding? Would you go out and do A, B, and C? What is it that you would prioritize your time if you were short? Because in an ideal world, we'd love to be able to do everything, wouldn't we? It'd be nice if we were still in a position where in this game, you could log in 2-3 hours, you could complete absolutely everything in the game that you needed to do for that day, log out, job done. The game's past that point. And I think it's really past that point, don't you, Stewie? Obviously, we've been here since day one, and there used to be a point where that was physically possible.
Yeah, I hate where it's got to now, because I used to be a completionist, and even with the amount of time I spend in the game, you just can't do it. It's impossible. It's impossible.
It is impossible, and that is a good thing and a bad thing. Obviously, it's a good thing because you know that there's always something that you can do when you have got time. It's a bad thing for the likes of people that do want to be able to compete and do everything and be as efficient as possible, that it's just not physically possible anymore. Now, the previous episode, we talked about quality of life, didn't we? And talked about how some of these older loops activities have been either vastly accelerated or even in the sense of things like the Borg and Axion actually closed off. Do you know what I mean? They've closed that loop for people that have, in essence, mastered, in inverted commas, that particular activity within the game. But going back to my question, we'll stick with you, Stewie. What is the thing that you would focus on in a time-limited situation? How do you prioritize your time?
Well, obviously we get the freebooters out paying to get the dailies done because they've been a godsend, and it usually gives me a chance to start looking at things like the Silent and the Zindies first. Gorn I try and do in little batches where possible, and then I just wish I could do the others, but I can't choose between them, so I end up not doing any of them, which really annoys.
It is annoying. It is annoying, and it gets to the point where is there a particular loop in that case then? If you're not doing many of them, because obviously there's that vast array of what you want to do in the little time that you've got. What's the one that you think, God, I wish I did that more? Do you know what I mean? I wish I had more time to do that. Is there one specific one or a couple of specific entries that you, when it gets to that point where it's due your refines and you get to that bundle and you've got nothing to actually refine to do it to keep up with it? What's the one or two that really annoy you?
The biggest culprit is the Voyager loop, where I've got the relics for the first refine, but I'm forever running out of the other ones, and I don't have them for weeks on end. And then the other one is the Formation Armadas as well, which I run out of pools for the newer ones, the Borg ones, the rares that came out not too long ago.
Yeah.
And that's annoying because that's such an important thing for your account. Those artifacts they're important.
Oh, yeah, really, and they're powerful buffs.
Absolutely, and if you go 1 or 2 days without getting them, then those are days lost. You don't get those back. I mean, sure, you can get back on the bike and ride again, but the days that you've lost are days you've lost.
They are. They really, really are. And I totally agree with that sentiment, and it does anger me. Have you not found that for the likes of, obviously, the two that you've mentioned being, obviously, Voyager being one of those, are you not in a position where your Voyager allows you to use the new bundle that we've got this month to accelerate that loop? Where is your Voyager at?
The Voyager's fine. I mean, if I slept on it for a while because I was after the four-star parts, the from the refine, but that's now gone because of the new export stuff that we get, etc. So it started growing again. But it's not even that. It's the D. I don't find D easy to come by. And
You're not looking in the right place.
Apparently not. That's for another stream.
Oh, sorry, we're talking about Trek, aren't we? So, sorry.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Yeah. So I just find that it's all accounted for. I go out into the mirror universe, get all my stuff, and then I'm thinking, well, that's spoken for. I can't just go frivolously spending it all over the place. So even with nice things that have been added, it doesn't always it's not always a silver bullet.
No, I agree, and obviously, I mean, we're all in different stages in terms of ops level, and obviously, we know that, and I think that does play a part where you have progressed with your specialty ships. Obviously, that does play a big killer part to it. So, obviously, you'd like to be able to do more Voyager to, in essence, end that loop, and obviously, that then ties into the mirror universe to close that loop off and still maintain the regular pulls from it. And Formation Armadas are the same. I mean, there is a bundle that you can use for those. I mean, the X-Borg bundle that you use to get the, or is it X-Borg? Yeah, the X-Borg bundle to do the artifact haul. I find myself using that on a daily basis to get the complex nanotechs to be able to pull that officer refinery, and I really like that. And it does speed that loop up, but I probably haven't run a Formation Armada for a couple of months now because that chest does keep me ticking along.
Yeah, and they have been great additions to the game, and I'm not going to knock them for that very reason. When they do good, and they deserve to be sort of like supported for doing the good. But all it's doing is solving big problem that exists in the background anyway. And as we start getting more resources from the newer loops that we can use in these new shortcuts, if you like, these bonus items in these stores, then yes, things will get better. And it won't matter so much that you're not doing the loops, because they're as Jules likes to say, they're sunsetted. It's his word, and it's the perfect word for it.
And it's a great way. I mean, and loops have to close. We talked about this last time. Loops have to close because that's the only way that they could introduce new loops into the workload. That's the only way that they can do it.
They weren't before.
No, they really were. They were just adding on top of with no actual reduction at the bottom. I completely agree. What about you, Minnie? Obviously, looking at it from a lower ops level, obviously low 40s, and obviously having a alt 30 account as well. What's your take on like priorities of grinds once you've done the daily minutiae, you've done your dailies, you've done your events and things? How then do you focus your time in the low 40s?
Can I just cover the low 30s first?
Of course you can.
If that's okay. Obviously, swarms I do with my dailies, so that's great. Latinum Monday I do on Latinum Monday, and many of the other loops I do when they're events. So Lost and Voyager grind, because obviously I've still got to do my 100 days of opening chests for my actual Voyager yet.
To actually
So
unlock the ship.
really, yeah, exactly. So really, my main focus in those lower 30s is getting my 10 mil in each faction. So it is faction grind. So I'm glad you mentioned that at the very beginning, because I hadn't even considered that as a loop. So for me, there it's the low 40s. Sorry, it's the faction grind.
And I haven't done that grind for a number of years now. The most difficult thing to do was to get 10 million lock. All three of your factions to 10 million lock. That felt like it used to take for such a long time. It used to feel like it was killing so many hostiles, and hostiles were really the key to actually doing that. It was the grind. Once you move into G4, G5, and ultimately into G6, reputation's kind of not done with hostiles. It's taken care of with dailies and events. And obviously, if you're in the G6 region, you can even buy it now on a weekly basis to do it. But talking about pure grinding, your dailies account for so much reputation that is a loop that's sort of killed by the addition of so much more reputation within daily. So no, I think that's really good to hear, like a low 30s perspective, that reputation is a loop down there that you need to focus on to be able to hit your specific goals. What about your 40s account? What about a slightly higher up?
Well, with the 40s, the Xborg, as we discussed in the last pod, has just made such a great difference. So really, all I'm focusing on now are what comes out for the new. So the Gorn, I do that probably 2-3 times a week, and I do the Mirror Universe twice a week, and then Zindi. That's it. That's all I focus on. Everything else really has been covered, like you say, from the quality of life.
What
And you
about
know I
things
don't do
like
silence yet.
no? What about FKR, armadas, and things?
Not really. I just let it tick over now. I mean, when there's an event on, like there has been, I'll turn up for some and I'll show some support. But I'm not a big Armada lover. I'll hold them. I'll save up the tokens and then I'll go and host a few and I'll join a few. But otherwise, it's not really something I focus on.
Okay, but you still manage to maintain your pools when you can.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Since watching the YouTube video about how best to, what levels to pull things and things like that when it comes to FKR Armada tokens, made a difference.
No.
But
So in essence, you are doing the loop, but you're only doing it when you need to. You're not building up an excess of millions and millions or whatever amount to loot that you just don't need, that you can never spend. And to me, that's an efficient way of actually competing in a loop. What about you, Silvers? What about you? How do you focus on sort of spending your time when you've done the daily minutiae of the game?
So I'm kind of the opposite of Stewie. I pick something that I'm low on, and I'll spend hours doing that, and then I'm caught up for weeks or months, and I don't have to do that again until there's an event or I run out. So
Bulk play.
depending on what it is, I'll spend a lot of time on it on a single day and just be done with it.
And I'm of a very similar opinion. I mean, bulk play is something that I've done now for a number of years. And I mean, my tactics, this just to add a bit of strategy to it, my strategy to deciding what I do on a daily basis, weekly basis, monthly basis, comes from when I do my refines. I do my refines in the morning first thing. It's one of the first things that I do. So I get up while I'm having my morning cup of coffee. I will sit and go through everything in my refinery tab, everything in my chests tab, everything in my faction store. I will do all three, where the three main locations where everything is that you've got to claim on a daily basis to keep up with your loops. Whilst I'm going through that, obviously I'm clicking into each individual box as I'm claiming it. I take a note of what I've got, how low I am, like whether I'm low on. I've just used my last double pull of Dominion solo loot. I've just used my last double pull of that, so I know that that is something that I need to focus on within the next 2 days before that pull comes up again. So I might do that over one of the next 2 days to be able to have that ready for when that pull's due again. But I won't just do enough for that one pull. As Silver says, I'll bulk play it and I'll grind enough so that I don't have to potentially do it for 6 or 8 days in the event of a 2-day pull. And that works an absolute treat for me, because then it gets to the point where on an evening, my event reset is at 5 p.m. I normally get logged in at 6, 7 p.m. once everything's all sorted for work and walk the dog, similar to obviously the way that Stewie plays it. And then get my events done, get my dailies done if there's anything that I haven't got done during the day, if I've found 5-10 minutes here. And then I go and focus on that one thing that I've identified at the start. And that works an absolute treat for me. And I think bulk play, as opposed to just trying to do the daily grind every single day for things, is absolutely the way forward now. I mean, if we take the mirror for myself, I demonstrated it on stream tonight. 2 days in the mirror universe. We had 2 events for it over this weekend just past. I now don't have to grind Trillium A for the next 18 days. I don't need to get any Trillium D for refines for the next 51 days from those 2 days of events. So that's basically that loop, out of sight, out of mind for quite some time. And that works an absolute treat for me. Is there anything else? Anything else you can think of, Silvers, that you would be as an absolute killer priority?
Wave defense is my biggest thing. I'm constantly doing waves. Not so much the new ones, but I've been really consistent with getting a group together and doing the regular sized level 40 waves. We've been able to consistently beat level 8 or 9, depending on who's in our crew. Well, this is just with G4 players. And I've really enjoyed the group mechanic of the waves and the activity, but I've also found that the favors are really valuable. The Armada speed ups are quite valuable. Sloan, as a fleet commander, is very valuable. So I'll eventually start working on unlocking more of his skills through the Section 31 store.
To get the skill points.
Yeah, exactly. I've just found that to be, one, a really engaging piece of content that I enjoy, and two, that is something that has a lot of value.
Do you know what? And that's something that we maybe haven't covered. We've been talking about getting enough stuff to do our refinery pulls, and what we've done is we've actually eliminated the whole point of a game, which is the fun, engagement, community-driven element of Star Trek Fleet Command, and obviously Waves gives us that. I mean, I did a wave tonight on stream with 4 people, Stewie plus 3 people from another alliance. I don't play with those people every single day, but I chatted to them, talking about crews, and that's engagement that you don't get pretty much anywhere else other than Waves.
And I was doing waves tonight. It's usually the same 4 or 5 people in my waves. We're pretty consistent with it, but we knock out 3 or 4 in half hour to an hour, depending on how long it takes. And we're working on getting these new favors unlocked, and it's taken that group mentality of 5 to 6 people in an armada, and then but instead of sitting there for 15 minutes, you're actually engaging, and you've got strategy
and playing the game. You're actually playing. Doing an armada is not playing, is it? It's clicking send and then waiting. Mm-hmm. That's not playing. Playing is doing something like a wave.
Apart from, like, I would say solos are more playing, especially if you're using the speed ups.
Yeah,
but in general, I would agree. Armadas are more of just a ascend and wait.
And before we come on to me, let's introduce our guest. So, JulesVern, obviously the king of all of the loops. He understands everything. He knows every single number. They're all in his head, All those spreadsheets, he's got everything now pertained to memory. He doesn't have to
They
think
just
about
downloaded.
anything. It's just downloaded into his brain. But what's your take on this? Obviously, you are now, congratulations to you as well, you are now a brand new G6 player. As of, is it this weekend?
Yes.
So congratulations on joining the G6 club. How are you finding it out of interest?
Finding it a lot easier than I expected. I think that I had, watching your video and watching your ascend, I knew what to do and how to prepare my account for getting to G6 early and what my goals needed to be that day one. Because I hit those goals day one, I was very easy access to everything I needed to get done in order to be doing dailies, to get the silent hostels. So I didn't feel like I had a gap of time in between where I wasn't doing anything. I felt I was ready to go.
And that proves that you were ready for the jump, doesn't it? I mean, the fact that you've gone up and you've not found any major challenges by going up, that just proves that you did do the correct preparation work before you do a generational jump. So a jump from 39 to 40, a jump from 50 to 51, a jump from 60 to 61. Any generational jump, as much as I don't agree with people camping for ridiculous amounts of time at the end of a generation and getting moved up for all the benefits that are there, I have always said you need to be ready for what's coming up. You need to know what's coming up. And obviously, you've proved that you've done that. So, no, congratulations and welcome to G6. That's amazing. But moving on to the topic, what do you think? What's your priority today? What do you think? Obviously, because knowing all the stats and numbers and things like that is amazing. But what about physical gameplay? What do you actually focus on a daily basis other than the standard stuff that you have to do?
Yeah, to answer your specific question, if I have 30 more minutes to spend in the game, what am I spending it on? And one of the things that I found most valuable in, mid G5, I think really all G5 and now into G6 is the Monavine and the resource generation from Monavine. It was the only reason why I was able to go up into G6. Resource was the bottleneck for a lot of players. And since maximizing my Monavine pulls from very early on, I was able to pull a lot of resources. And that was the reason why I was able to go to G6 so quickly. And now that I have purchased the Monavine skin, it is a fantastic source for Sigma resources. And I don't think that the transition to G6 would have been smooth without that. So hopefully that becomes more accessible as more people get to G6.
I hope so.
So Monavine is not a very big grind, true. But if you do want to maximize that, it does require doing the choice selection bundle, which does require some active grind. So now what I'm doing is spending a little bit more time going up there and grinding so I can get some more of those active neural chips so I can continue to maximize my resources pools.
And just obviously filling anybody that's not aware, what is the choice selection exchange? What does that actually do? Why do you feel that's important?
Because it gives more of the Queen's favors. Those are the currencies that unlock the resource bundles. Now, everybody should be able to single pull each of the resources without having to worry about that choice. Now, luckily, this grind, which I am advocating for, is very low grind, because if you don't care about maximizing that loop, you can set and forget, which means just leave a ship out there to auto grind, leave your Monavine out there, and you'll be able to do this loop without any sort of active time. However, if you choose to engage in a little bit more active grinding, you can get more of those Queen favors, which means you can open up a double chest consistently on one or two of the resource bundles, which if that is a primary source for some of your resources, as it is for early G6 for me, it is very important that I do that.
Absolutely. And I mean, my top tip to anybody for anybody who's got a Monavine, before you go to bed, crew up your Monavine and throw it out into Texas space and just let it die overnight. It's free resources for you in doing it. I never active grind the Monavine. If I was to look at my field training for the Monavine, I have not completed that yet because I have not actively ground sufficient ships. Since the Monavine came out, I have only killed 593 Texas class ships by physically clicking the attack button. I I've now got a tier 12 Monavine and I've never spent on it. So I've maxed it out purely with auto grinding. And that's just because on a night time, before I go to bed, I throw my Monavine into the space. I make sure that if I'm at work and I know I'm going to be going to an appointment in a minute, before I lock my computer, again, I'll throw that crew on it and I'll throw it out into Monavine space. It's grinding when I'm not physically able to be in the game. It takes 30 seconds to send it back out, and it's so important. I mean, and the only other element to the Monavine that I would say is the ability to get materials as well. I mean, what do you think of the materials bundle? And you get the materials by completing the Monavine armadas, which are obviously up in the same space, and killing the automated shipyards and then getting materials. Do you see value in that bundle? Would you recommend players go for that bundle? Is that something you think you would do if that was one of the loops that you prioritize? Do you prioritize it?
Well, considering that the grind of the actual armadas is very low, as in it does not take a lot to get the amount of credits needed to maximize those bundles, I don't see it as a problem. I feel like any player can get enough that you will consistently be able to pull both chests every single time it resets. So it is a nice little like added thing, and it doesn't take much grind at all. But it's not something that I'm highly prioritizing or would I ever recommend prioritizing.
No, I agree. So the Monavine, you're talking specifically not about the entire loop. You've broken that down into the two sections of the loop, which is the hostiles and then obviously the armadas, and you would focus on the hostiles as being the key one for you. And I totally agree with that. I think if I was going to say about mine, I mean, the one that I picked, and I was shocked that nobody else picked it, because the thing that I get bugged about if I am unable to pull it, and it doesn't happen very often because I do have this priority with it, and that's silence. Going and pulling that silent chest, I like to try and do a 3 chest pull of the silent loot every single day, the temporal exchange. And that's not easy for me to do, even though I like to bulk play. If I don't use boosts, I can get about 2 days worth per cell. So you get 2 cells per day. So in theory, I could probably do on average 4 days worth in a day if I just use the cells that you get and that I've got from the previous day. And the reason that I really prioritize that is because I see massive value in the temporal artifacts. Going back to what Stewie was talking about earlier, artifacts provide fantastic bonuses and buffs to all of your ships. And I like that element of, that's why I prefer artifacts over forbidden text, is because it's blanket across the majority of your fleet. Obviously, it's not just affecting one ship like a forbidden tech is, but I also really like silence because of the ability to grind out primes. I think any method of grinding out primes, if you haven't seen the video that I did on dolomite particles, we'll do one similar for the prime orbit medallions, which is the currency that you get from silence. But there's some really good primes in there that you can grind out for free, but you can't do that unless you're doing the silent loop. So that's the one that I think I focus on if I'm really restricted for time. I think we've covered a hell of a lot of span there. We've covered from the 30s up into the 60s, and we've given some really good reasons around why we do what we do and how we do it. Has anybody got anything that they think they want to add to this section? Anything that maybe some killer pieces of advice, maybe just a little tidbit for people? Anything that anybody wants to add on obviously essential grinds of the game and what you should be doing on a daily basis?
For me, the Bajoran, Borg, even Monavine solos, I really enjoy the solo armada mechanic, and just making sure that I'm able to keep up on everything for all of those pulls is a priority of mine. And sometimes I get behind on some of the Dominion ones, but I always try to keep up so that I'm continuing to get everything that can offer, because it really is valuable, even when you're quote unquote finished with the loop. If you're maxed with your Bajoran rep and you've got all those favors unlocked, there's still really good stuff in those armada pulls, and I recommend anybody continuing to pull those when they can.
What sort of things do you think you value in the pulls then? Let's say for somebody that has maxed out Cisco, Miles, Kira, they've maxed out those officers. What things do you think are benefits to players carrying on with that loop?
The biggest thing for me is the trade XP, and that's the uncommon armadas. So it's theoretically the easiest armadas for your ops range. The trait XP is so important for upgrading the traits of officers for the away team's mechanic. They've got good materials just by obtaining the Bajoran credits and tokens, and ship parts as well, both uncommon and rare for a G4 player that takes his ships higher than most players do. That extra influx of parts is really nice.
Absolutely. I totally agree. Anybody got any other ones? So we've obviously got box solos, and we've all given our personal opinions, but has anybody got anything else that they want to add to obviously the conversation there on prioritizing loops and activities in the game?
I'd like to just say to players that are like me, that feel that they need to try and do as much as possible. Don't not try and do them, but don't feel bad if you can't, because it's really, really easy to start to feel deflated when you can't do it, because then you start thinking, well, if I can't do this, then what's the point in doing that? And then what's the point in doing that? And that's not the right way to do it. Just do what you can, accept that you might not be able to do it all, but just do the ones that you enjoy.
I totally agree. And I think if you can hit that realization early that A, this is a game, B, yes, there is a hell of a lot of efficiency that you need to focus on, but C, the big one that Stewie said there, you can only do what you can physically do. You've only got so much time that you're able to commit to the game. Do the bits that you enjoy and the bits that have got the payout for you, and use that as your focus point. And trying to do everything, I'm telling you now, I think you could probably play this game, and I bet some people do. I bet you could play this game for 17, 18 hours a day and still have stuff that you're not fully caught up on. I genuinely believe that that's a fact. I genuinely believe that that's something that you could do. So no, really good conversation. Really enjoyed that. I hope everybody's learned something from that. And like I say, if you have, when you're writing a review or something like that for the podcast, let us know what you've learned or what tip that you've decided to take away and try. Or if you have tried any of these tips, come back and then give us some feedback on the Discord or something like that. We are now going to move on to freedom and reason. I have to ask, because you've never been here before, Jules, what do you think of our theme tune for Freedom and Reason?
It's good. It's good.
I think it's amazing. It still makes me smile every time it comes on. Okay,
it makes me confused. I don't know how to salute.
So
just curtsy.
Just curtsy. You can always get away with that. You can get away with that in any culture, can't you? So we are going to be talking about the cultural differences between the US and the UK as the Brits and the Yanks battle it out. And today the topic is, what does the UK think of US tourists? And vice versa. So when we invade each other's lands, when a Brit heads across to the US and when a US comes over here, what do we actually think? Do you know what I mean? When we see one of them in our own habitat, when they leave and they migrate across the Atlantic Ocean. I think we'll start off with you, Silvers. What do you think? So if I came to see you, what's the first thing that you would do? Or think?
That's a very open question.
Phrasing.
That's very open. I would say in general,
I've thrown a lot of there, haven't I?
You really did. Just bringing yourself into the conversation. I think a lot of Americans kind of find Brits just a little bit amusing. They might not be able to recognize you right away, but as soon as they hear you speak, they'll know, oh, that's an Englishman, or that's a Brit, just based on your accent. And I think a lot of Americans find that a little bit cool, because unless you're from the South, you don't have a super strong accent.
No.
Or then I guess the Northeast has some strong accents too.
Yeah, man's pretty
just
bad.
To include.
Yeah, man's pretty bad.
But a lot of Americans would get that feeling of, oh, it's cool, it's a Brit, and they might go and talk to you, ask you some stereotypical things. That's what Americans think of as all the stereotypes. How do
Everybody
you like
always
your
asks-
tea?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whenever anybody asks where I'm from, I don't say I'm from Hull, which I am. I always say I'm from Yorkshire. And then the standard question back is that near London? That's the standard question, because everybody seems to know that London's pretty south. Do you know, everybody knows that. And that's like the
Yeah.
standard go-to question for people. And I mean, I find that I see very, very few Americans, especially from where I am. And I think if I was in London, if I was a bit more southern, maybe I would see a hell of a lot more. But where I am up here, obviously in the northeast, it's very, very. An American's got lost if they come to Hull. Do you know what I mean? There's no reason. I can't think of any reason why somebody from America would ever come to Hull. The nearest place would
An
probably
English
be
person's got lost if they end up in Hull.
exactly. We are at the end. Well, we are at the end of the road. We're at the end of a motorway called the M62, and literally that then just leads into the North Sea. So if you're coming to Hull, you're coming to Hull for a reason. You don't pass through, so we don't get like people just passing through us and stopping for a bit and doing stuff. It just doesn't happen. But I see very, very few Americans. I mean, I bet it's even less likely for you, Stewie, being on your island near France.
We actually do get a lot of tourists over here. It's one of the things we used to be really famous for, apart from the cows and the potatoes.
I only know about the cows
and French people.
Yeah,
But
baguettes.
Whenever I've experienced them, like when I've been on holiday or something like that, I'll use the same word Silvers did. I find them amusing.
Me too.
Okay, but I don't know if anyone else is like this. Whenever I see an American on holiday, they look like they've literally just walked off the page of a clothes catalogue from the the beach section. They've got their shoes are brand new, their shorts are brand new. They've got their fanny packs. Okay, they've got the jackets on, a hat on, brand new. And they're so excited about everything. Oh, look, it's a pavement. You know,
oh, hold on.
Sorry, sidewalk. And it's the excitement.
We know what those are.
Yeah,
I
you
think
do now.
there was a sketch with Mickey Flanagan once where he was describing them, and he says, when you first meet Americans, their enthusiasm is great and it's wonderful, and you really like it until you realise that it's actually sucking your own enthusiasm out of you. Okay, while you're sitting there watching them, and I get it. I really do get it.
I always
in
find,
the nicest way, of course.
I always
Stuart.
find Americans in person. I always find you to be very easily excitable. I always think that we're very mellow in general cases. Do you know what I mean? We don't. Not. It takes quite a lot to get us excited. Is what I mean.
Boring.
Yeah, a few pints at least.
A few pints. Yeah. I don't think boring's the right word. I just think we have a different entertainment threshold. Like, I mean, I just think we need more. I don't know what I'm trying to say.
Come on, Lou. You put us in front of a giant mouse and we're like jumping up and down like kids.
Do you know? And
Give
that's
us a
what I was
bottle
going to say.
of Coke.
And that's what I was going
And
to
it's
say.
like, it's half a litre. It's 500 millilitres. It's so big.
It's huge. The big, massive drinks. And
huge.
And obviously, the stereotypical Brit probably go to 4 or 5 places in the US. Do you know what I mean? The stereotypical, I mean, you could probably name them. You've got Florida, you've got Miami, you've got California. I'm trying to think of places. I mean, I meant Disney World, Florida. I mean, the places that people go, it's not
New
huge
York
tourist areas. Of course, New York, Vegas. Do you know what I mean? They're the key places that Brits would tend to think, we're going to the States, that's what we're going to go and do. Now, you're not in any of those, are you, Silvers? Do you know what I mean? Where you are. How often you will never. Is there anything that a tourist would come to your state for specifically? Generally.
No.
I'm actually pretty close to Silvis, nearby in Chicago, and even there, we don't see a lot of tourists. And I'm now in a suburb, so I see 0 British tourists. But when I did live in the city, one thing I always noticed about British tourists is how polite y'all are.
Oh, we are.
You stand in line? That's ridiculous.
We are very good at that. We are the
Good
masters.
old Americans. We don't care about lines. We just kind of hoard the door.
It's our national
and-
sport, queuing.
Yeah, queuing. We are bloody good at queuing. And do you know what as well really annoys me is that I've driven in America and it angered the crap out of me because if somebody lets me go, like at a junction, I will say thank you. If somebody waits behind a parked car for me to pass, I'll put my hand up and I'll say thank you, or I'll give them a thumbs up and say thanks for that. And I did that a few times and they didn't even look at me.
Well, here's the reason why. That hand signal may mean something different. We tend to be pretty passive aggressive with our hand signals in America. So that hand could be screw you. It could be get out of my way. It could be why are you not even looking at the road? Get off your phone. It could be lots of things. Very rarely is it.
So what I have done in essence is just drive around insulting people. That's in essence all I've done.
Yep.
When what I've tried,
Sounds like it.
It's just it's just full on angered me to the point that I never let anybody go. Nobody parked at me, and then I just flicked them the birds because I thought, well, I ain't waiting for anybody else. That's
usually what happens when you're driving on the wrong side of the road in the United States.
Yeah, I've got a story about that. I did set off on the wrong side once. But it was in a little back street and it didn't make any difference. There was nobody on the road, so I had nothing to guide me, and I just set off as I normally would on the left hand side, and then went, oh no, and then I obviously swapped over when we got to the next junction because I realised that the lights were at the wrong side.
I'm sure you were also going the speed limit. That's just ridiculous.
Well, it was actually
you can't go anywhere in the United States if you're not going 5 over.
No, and it was the first time I'd ever driven an automatic car because obviously you're not capable of working stick shifts, are you, over there? You don't know how that works. You can't work a proper engine, can you?
I'd say a good 90% do not know how to use a manual.
No. Can you drive a manual?
Why would you have sticks in your car? I mean, you want to keep your car clean.
Can you drive a manual?
Are you always driving a dog around? I've driven a stick before, but I'm not familiar. I'm not great at driving a stick, but I have driven a stick.
You see, even the terminology of that sounds like you're sticking the stick somewhere, riding a stick. That doesn't sound that. Do you know what I mean? That's odd terminology, and I knew that was going through Stewie's head. Riding that stick, I knew that was going through that.
I had to mute the mic.
Sorry, no, I don't typically drive a manual transmission automobile.
There you go. We'd never call it an automobile either. We'd never call it an automobile either. But it's a car.
I just want to be at the rental desk when you walk up and say, "Can I have your stick, please?"
Yeah.
Excuse me.
You see, I can't take all the credit because I do drive an automatic car now, and best will in the world. I'm going to say it. I shouldn't say it. I'll never drive a manual car again by choice.
I'm like that as well.
I'll never drive a manual car again by choice.
I used to be.
You're turning back on your country.
I know.
I used to be stick all the time, but the missus wanted an automatic, so we got an automatic as the family car, and I had my hatchback at the time. And I've got to be honest, once I got that automatic, it was like, yep, no, this is the way to drive.
There's no better way to eat McDonald's whilst driving, whilst tapping something on the screen. I don't know how I ever had time to change gear. I don't know how I ever managed to change gear. I don't know how I ever had a hand free to change gear. Basically, now that I drive an automatic.
I can't tell you how many pints I've spilt trying to change.
I know. Yeah, I'm trying to find my glasses. Yeah, it's just me driving glasses. No, it's absolute madness. What about you, Minnie? Obviously, you've been to the States, haven't you? I mean, how did you find that you was received? Did you find that? Because I found that the Americans were quite fascinated by us, as I am with them. This is reciprocated both ways. If I hear an American in a restaurant or something like that, my ears prick up because we don't see it very often.
You can tell.
I listen, and I do listen. I mean, obviously, I don't know if that would happen now because, in the nicest possible way, I talk to you far too much now, Silvers, and I talk to Americans all the time. I don't know if that novelty factor of the fact that I never used to talk to Americans, now I speak to them every single week. I don't know if that novelty would have worn off a little bit for me now, but when I was there, I found that exactly the same happened to me. So obviously, when people heard you talk, people used to, their ears would prick up and they'd want to talk to you and they'd ask you to say funny words. I mean, is there anything that you would ever ask?
Crumpets.
Yeah, crumpets. What's wrong with that?
Water.
Yeah, I don't understand.
Wow.
What's the problem with water? What's the problem with that?
Water.
Exactly that.
Ooh.
Just exactly how you just said it.
I don't get it. Do you, Minnie?
No, not at all. I found that when I was in America, the Americans seem to think that the UK is so small that when you say, "Oh, I'm from Manchester," they go, "Oh, Bill's from Manchester. Do you know Bill?" And
Yes.
you go, "No."
I don't. No. Even though we're small, we are small. We have still got 60 million people. Do you know what I mean? So the odds
We're
of
still big, yeah.
Is that it?
I know we're small. I know that's little compared to you, but obviously small and mighty. It's not the size; it's what you do with it. Going back to Stewie's Trillium again, aren't we? Stewie's Trillium D. But no, I just always found that it was it was like a culture shock, and I think because our societies are so historically intertwined, aren't we? We are basically connected, aren't we, from history and all that sort of stuff, and we are
In a way, yeah.
and I think that connection that we've got just makes us naturally fascinated with each other. I mean, Stewie, would you ever want to live in America?
Yeah, I mean, I like having fun poking, dig, and all that. But anyone who knows me knows that if I'm poking fun at you, it's because I like you. Because if I don't like you, I won't waste my time.
No.
Okay. And I poke fun at them because I like them. And yes, I think I would. I mean, I love the idea of America, the size of it, stuff like that. But I might cut my teeth on the UK first. Try something a bit smaller.
Just try a slightly bigger island. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, you're already on a small island.
Yeah, he's going to move to
Exactly.
Sicily first, aren't you? Move a slightly larger island.
Slightly larger, but it's funny that what Minnie was saying about it. Oh, do you know Bill? The irony is, living where I live, there's a good chance I do actually know the person they're talking about. Okay, because when you live here for your life, you do get to know like a huge part of the population.
What's the population of your island?
It's just over 100,000 now.
So, I mean, which is small, isn't it?
Yeah,
in terms of the fact that it's.
But the other thing, of course, is having to explain to the Americans that it's not New Jersey. There's new at the beginning of Jersey because it's actually named after something else.
Yeah.
It blows their mind, like New York. Well,
it's named after the York that's 40 miles away from me.
Yeah. And it's. I always say to them, it's original Jersey, not old Jersey.
Hey, I've just thought of one. Orleans, obviously New Orleans. Is there an Orleans somewhere?
That's
France.
That's French.
Yeah,
is
French.
it?
Yeah.
Oh, I never knew that.
Yeah, because the
Orleans.
Louisiana
being French,
Yeah, we should have asked a resident baguette swallower, shouldn't we? We should have asked a resident.
Phrasing.
What about you, Jules? Do you think you would ever fancy? Have you ever been to the UK? Is it something that you've ever fancied doing? I mean, what would you think?
Yeah, I've been to the UK a couple of times. Usually just flying through London, but I'm actually I have Irish descendants and Irish family still in Ireland. So I think for me, it'd be going over to a little bit across the pond.
Yeah, the mini pond.
The mini pond, exactly. But just one of the things that makes me kind of sad about your country, and we kind of joke about how small it is. My commute is every day to work is the distance between where you are in Yorkshire to Manchester and back.
Yeah,
so
see that
if you drove to Manchester every day,
a nosebleed. Yeah, that's no. I'd need a hotel for that.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be doing that. And we laugh about that because like people in London, they have typical commutes on like the tube network and things of about 90 minutes. Up here in Yorkshire, we'd be going to the Union if somebody tried moving our office that was more than half an hour away. Do you know what I mean?
That's just from one suburb of Chicago to a different suburb of Chicago.
And that takes like 2.5 hours.
Yeah. If I wanted to get to the next state, it would take me longer than it would take for you to get to Scotland.
Yeah, see, and that blows my mind as well because you drive interstate quite a lot, don't you? In America, you don't always fly, do you? Because I know that obviously you've done it, Silvers. You've mentioned it a few times. You drive back to your parents, don't you? And you drive, and that's hundreds and hundreds of miles, isn't it? We'd just fly.
It's about 700 miles for me to
Yes.
drive home.
See, that's bit no. I
That's
can't.
one
And
of the funny
it's just
stories I have.
a day's drive.
Yeah, and I think that's the threshold for me. Like I won't fly for anything less than that.
Bloody hell.
But don't forget,
Like-
they got highways with like 3,000 lanes on them, you know, and stuff like that. So.
Not really.
What's your speed limit on a interstate?
Most of them
75.
are 75 miles an hour.
But again, remember, we are Americans. We go 10 over at any time. So we're going
Yeah.
85, 90.
Is that actually?
Sometimes
Do you
95.
actually? Would you ever get pulled at 76?
Oh no,
No.
no. You
There's
can
actually-
easily go 5 miles an hour and not get pulled over. Just go ahead, Jules.
Yeah, there was a state law that passed, which was kind of funny in Arizona, that the cop can't actually pull you over for anything less than 11 miles an hour over the speed limit
Oh,
without probable cause, because they were using that to target, people of mixed race background, and so they said, "Oh no, you can't do that anymore." So you really can't even get pulled over if you're going on one of the interstates. There, the speed limit is 80 miles an hour, so you really won't get pulled over for going less than 90.
wow. See,
And it varies state to state too.
of course. And, I mean, that's
different states have their own different legislative branches.
that's a topic for another pod, that, because
100%. Yeah.
the variation in your laws system, the way that your laws work, obviously government, state, all that sort of stuff, that blows my mind a little bit. That's total another topic.
And
of
it's
how
completely
your laws are
different
passed.
from the federal to the state level, or even the local level.
That's what I mean.
The way that the government works is just so different.
It is an absolute can of worms. I agree. I think we've done freedom and reason to death. Has anybody got any final points on, or any digs that they want to make at each other before we move on to our Star Trek topic? Nope. Outstanding. Okay, so our Star Trek topic of the pod today, and I'm looking forward to this one. The question is, what technology from Star Trek would you want to be available in real life? And again, we've done this a few times. This is blue sky thinking. This is everything's possible. It has to have existed in Star Trek, so it's not like something above that. What sort of technology would you want to be available in real life? I'm not going to go first. I'm going to shoot myself in the foot and only go first on this one because somebody always steals what I like. But we're going to start with our guests because I think that's the nicest thing to do. So we're going to start with you, Jules. What technology from Star Trek would you like in real life and why?
I had two. I had a backup because I figured I'd steal somebody's. But my primary one would probably be the medical tricorder, mainly for diagnosing issues in the field. I recently had a family member who had a heart attack, and not knowing the person around did not know CPR, was led through CPR thanks to a call to 911. And only because they were able to perform that CPR in the moment right after the heart attack were they able to keep the person alive enough to get medical attention.
Wow.
And without that, 911 call, without that person there, like you may not know exactly what to do in the moment. And there's so many things that you can intervene in a medical emergency situation that don't require medical expertise. You just need to know what to do. And the medical tricorder can be one of those things, especially out in the field. If that was available, that would be just a huge boost to the health and safety of everybody.
Oh, God, it wouldn't. So you've gone totally philanthropic. I've been really selfish with mine, so I feel really bad. Go on, Minnie. I'll let you go. What do you think? By the way, I would love that. I mean, even like the medical advancements. I mean, the fact that they don't have all the diseases that we've got here and stuff like that. I mean, that's just utopia, isn't it, for medicine? And you'd know full well that with medical science, we will get there. Do you know what I mean?
And selfishly, I would use it on my child all of the time.
You'd have a permanent one, wouldn't you? Above their.
Yeah, you're not sick. You're going to school.
Yeah. Oh. I thought you meant to check in the well-being. You're basically doing a bullshit test.
Yeah.
Hey. What about you, Minnie?
For me, it's the holodeck.
Bugger.
I mean, could you imagine it? You could have one room houses and be like, I need a bedroom, a house for 4 because my family's expanded, or just really selfishly, I'd like to go and meet Nikola Tesla, or I'd like to go back in history, or I'd like to play a sports game. Holodeck for me, that's what I'd like.
And it's because the possibilities are so endless with it, innit? Do you know what I mean? There's just nothing that cannot be relived or imagined on a holodeck. You're basically giving yourself. There's no reason really for anybody to ever do anything if they have a holodeck. I think the problem with holodecks is that we would have a hell of a lot more than just Reg Barkley who got addicted to the holodeck and never actually left. And Nog, obviously, Nog was another one, wasn't he, from the series? Nog got addicted when he obviously lost his leg. He's injured his leg. Did he lose it? He got a prosthetic, didn't he? Did he lose his leg?
What, DS9?
Yeah. I can't remember if he lost it or if he just injured it. I think he got a prosthetic leg, but I do think he actually lost his leg and he had to learn to use it and walk and stuff again.
Possibly, I can't remember.
No, but yeah, I think that's the only downfall of it, isn't it? I think it would basically open it up to that. And could you imagine how much one would cost? But joking.
Well, yeah.
What would you use a holodeck for, Stewie, when you was on your own?
So that I could get more loops done during a day.
Yeah, you could, couldn't you? Yes.
I might actually be able to complete them all.
Yeah, you could have a 24/7 Stewie start tapping the screen, and it'd even know all your crap jokes to engage in AC.
Oh,
they can do your officer tool updates as well.
Yeah, I might be able to get them out in time then.
Think of the sleep you could have.
Ooh, sleep.
That was low, that, wasn't it? But there again, we still ain't got an update on the syndicate sheet either, have we? Yeah. We ain't got a syndicate sheet yet, though, have we, Stewie? Anyway, moving on. What do you think, Silvers? I'll let you go. Because obviously you haven't done your syndicate sheet, so I assume you've got a really good piece of technology that you would like to bring into real life.
It's not necessarily technology, but it's a skill that's brought on by technology, I suppose. I'm going to go with genetic engineering.
Okay, tell me more.
So I'm not necessarily considering, make someone smarter, stronger, whatever. I'm more thinking of like removing certain predispositions to diseases, like certain cultures or people or family lines are more predisposed to different types of cancer or like lymphoma or Parkinson's or whatever it is. And I think that would have a lot of utility in today's world, is like fixing a lot of health concerns that may be like family based.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, because obviously these things could be checked out before people were even born, and obviously it'd allow you to be able to obviously negate that and eventually eradicate a lot of these things, because a lot of illnesses do come down through the gene pool as hereditary issues that potentially fire off in later life and actually activate. So no, I absolutely agree. I think that'd be a fantastic addition. It'd be really nice. What I am noticing here is that we've only had one Brit so far, but both the Americans have gone for very, very philanthropic answers, and Minnie's gone to have a really good time on the holodeck so far. So I'm hoping Stewie's gone for some.
Right?
So I'm hoping Stewie's is a little bit more deep and meaningful, just to back us up. But go on, Stewie. What's yours?
Mine, the replicator.
Yeah,
so
we're knackered. We're knackered.
You can grab stuff. Really nice.
Lazy.
Lazy. Just sit around. Don't have to worry about going down the shop. All the important things in life.
Social interaction. Don't need that.
I do that into Lube's Twitch stream, don't I?
Yeah, thanks for that. Thanks for that. But
follow him on Twitch.
I mean, the thing is, I know they say that they're good, these replicators. I never understand in Star Trek why with replicator technology, the likes of Cisco's dad and stuff like that, they still own restaurants and they still cook. And I've never fully understood why, unless the only reason for them still to do it would be that the food tastes crap. And if the food
I don't know if
or
it's
social interaction, a bit like
I don't know
going
if
to the
it's
bar.
different. I don't know if it's that the food tastes bad. It might be different. Other people might be less willing to use the replicator and more willing to use like real products. For some people, cooking is like an actual hobby, so they enjoy actual like going and producing a meal from this subset of ingredients. So it
It's
could
okay,
just be an
Stuart.
enjoyment thing.
No,
I will invite you round to my holodeck for a nice home cooked meal. Don't worry.
That she's replicated in the corner.
I mean, Silver's point is true. I mean, it's to put it into our worldy, it's the difference between a cooked meal and microwave meals. Microwave meals are there. We can
Really
grab
good comparison. Really good comparison.
we can throw them into the microwave, ping, ping, ding, away we go, and we got our food. But people still choose to cook because they just prefer it.
I agree.
It also gives you more of a sense of accomplishment. Like, oh, I made this meal, and then for some people, it even like affects how the meal tastes. Like, oh, I made this. This is from my hand. I put all these ingredients together. Look what I did, and it can affect how that meal is perceived to that person or other people. Just knowing that's a home cooked meal as opposed to just you buy it from the store, the freezer section. It's been sitting in your freezer for the last 4 months. You decided to pull it out and stick it in the microwave for a minute and a half, and you're done.
I agree. Jules, where would you sit on the fence with that? If you had a replicator in the corner of your kitchen, would you ever cook anything again?
Maybe. I think the replicator would be for beer.
But would you go for alcohol or synthahol?
Ooh, it depends. I mean, a good Romulan ale, you can't really replicate that.
I'd love to try it. It looks divine, doesn't it? I genuinely think it would be good. And I like that Aldebaran whiskey, that green stuff that Scotty gets in Relics from Guy.
Yeah, better than whatever whiskey you drink, that's for sure.
Oh, real whiskey, you mean? Real whiskey, not that bourbon crap. That
whiskey made with corn. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, not that watered down, grey, muddy water that you drink. Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, you've got a real American here, an American that actually drinks alcohol. Don't start that argument because you can't win.
Oh, I can't.
It's bourbon. That's right.
You win.
It's not whiskey, it's bourbon.
Next year, I'm making the commitment. Whichever Star Trek convention that we all agree to go to next year, I'm going. I will bring, providing I can get it in the country without being arrested, I will bring a real whiskey and we'll do a comparison. And I'm telling you, you will be wrong. I think by the time we go, I'm going to need a whole separate suitcase because what else was I bringing? I was bringing tea. I was bringing coffee. I think there's about 40 things that I'm bringing.
Brown sauce.
Brown sauce. Yes.
It's about time you just move.
I know.
I think you better just move.
Sauce.
So much.
Bisto gravy granules.
Proper gravy, grey gravy, not white gravy, none of that nobody actually understands or gets. Yes, totally. Mine, I'll move on to mine. Mine is the warp drive. I thought somebody was going to steal this. Yep. I have a stupidly curious mind. Do you know what I mean? I like to understand. I like to understand things. I don't understand anything. Silvers will tell you that. But I do also have quite a thirst for understanding what's going on outside the box. And I think the ability to be able to leave our solar system and go and explore other galaxies, potentially meet other races, I don't think there's anything more human than that quizzical necessity for exploration.
The new frontier.
The principal fundamental thing on which Starfleet was based when it was first there, exploration, strange new worlds, all that sort of thing. I think the warp drive, basically. But the thing is, you can't have the warp drive if you don't have the likes of the replicator, because you don't know where you're ever going to get your food from in the future. You need the medicine to be able to keep you alive. You need a lot of the other technology to be able to feel like you can justifiably go, unless it's going to be a multi-generational thing for you to actually explore deep space. Because I'm not expecting us to be able to get to Warp 9 or anything like that. But I mean, even just to get somewhere near Warp 1, do you know what I mean? Just to be able to actually physically get out of the solar system in some reasonable time. You'll probably know, Silvers. How long would it take at Warp 1 to get out of the solar system? How fast is Warp 1? Is that the speed of light?
That in most literatures, it is the speed of light. Yeah, depending on what series you're basing your warp speed on, the actual speed is different.
Yeah, but the actual power of it.
warp 1 would be like the speed of light.
But yeah, no, the actual the possibilities of that, I think that'd be amazing. I think it'd be good to be able to get to. I'm surprised. I've got one that nobody mentioned, but has anybody got any other honourable mentions? Anything that they want to throw in as something that they would see in real life? Go on.
I wanted to comment on what you said.
Oh, go
on. Firstly, you said to travel to other galaxies. It's not actually what they did in Star Trek because our galaxy is massive.
Systems. I meant star
different systems. Okay, there you go. Correction number 1.
Number 1.
And answer to your question, it is 4.4 give or take light years to the next star, like to the closest star, which is Proxima Centauri. So at warp 1, it would be about 4 years to get to the next system over. That's the answer to that question.
That doesn't sound unrealistic to me. Do you know what I mean? I'm not expecting to get there in 12 minutes. Do you know what I mean? I'm thinking realistic. I mean, whether it's ever even possible, who the hell knows?
It's not.
Yeah, you say that, but I've seen Star Trek.
Einstein's postulate says that due to mass energy conservation, you can't exceed the speed of light.
Did you say doo-doo?
No.
Oh, it sounded like doo-doo.
Unless you bend space-time around your vessel.
See, Jules has got a point. The whole idea of a warp field
around your vessel.
You need a warp field around your vessel. I think the only other one that I did want to talk about, see if anybody wants to chime in on it. I would love the idea of a transporter. Imagine if, like, the ability to. I mean, the airlines probably wouldn't really favour it, would they? Do you know what I mean?
No,
they wouldn't be too happy about it.
Or the car industry.
No,
well, they don't them all.
That's what I mean. No, but yeah, they'd have to own them all.
A lot of, like, you bring that up. A lot of technological advancements have been shut down because they would impact other industries. But yeah, the transporter was like the ultimate next best mention.
Just think, 20 years ago, if we had this conversation, we'd be going, I want to be able to carry a Paperlight tablet around that has all the information of all the medical conditions or the whole works of Shakespeare and have it available at my fingertips.
You know,
and so valid. The
iPad?
Obviously the iPad for the pad. I even remember thinking it was pretty magic when, do you remember the original Power Rangers? They used to have the communicators on the wrists, didn't they? That they used to be able to touch a button and they used to be able to talk to each other and talk to the big head dude. What was he called? Zordon. They used to be able to talk to him, didn't they? I know we're talking Power Rangers now, but I used to think that was magical. And I'm wearing one right now that does that and a hell of a lot more. And I thought that
you
was
can talk to the Power Rangers, can you?
I mean, basically a combat.
That's what I heard.
He is the pink Power Ranger.
Yes, I am. That's going to stick, isn't it? Somebody's going to put somebody's definitely going to put my squirrel outfit.
Candy?
Yeah, he's going to put my squirrel in a pink Power Rangers outfit in here. I know he's going to do that. That's going to stick. Right. Okay.
Talking of sticking, I'm surprised no one's actually called Lube out on this, but have you noticed that both of the technologies that he has chosen, transporter, warp drive, they're both things that theoretically could get him out of mud very easily. Okay.
Do you know? I thought he was going down. They might actually make me get somewhere on time.
You can always phone the head Power Ranger.
Jesus Christ! I thought he was going down the route of it might mean that I get somewhere on time. I thought that's where you were driving with it. That'll never happen.
Beyond science.
No, that'll never happen either. Right. Okay. I want to say a massive thank you.
Unless you can turn back time.
Turn back time. Yeah. Oh,
another honorable mention before you end. The universal translator.
Yeah.
Do you know?
You got to bring it up.
And you say that, but we've got it. AI in this cut, we've nearly got it.
It's not in the same way, though.
It's not in the same way where you can hear it and you speak it, and it obviously comes across straight away. But we've got
Yeah,
somewhat
sure.
relatively
If you want to
close.
spend another 30 seconds to a minute translating what you're saying to the next person that you're speaking
Yeah, okay.
by speaking into your phone and having it translate through Google Translate to whatever language.
No, you
Well,
don't.
But
Silvis, it's clearly working
and
because we can understand these British people speak their form of English. So it's obviously working
yeah,
in this.
and I also want to advocate for the universal translator because it can do more than just simply translate. It can hear a new language and piece together what the language is and how it translates and understand it. So it's more than just a simple translation matrix. It is actually a computer that can problem solve with the given information and figure out what this language is. And we saw that in Star Trek Enterprise when the Universal Translator was just becoming a thing and Toshi was figuring out how to use it. We saw it
Yeah, of course we did, yeah.
basically learning a language.
No, it would be, again, I don't think anything that we've mentioned is something that wouldn't add value to everybody's lives. I think it's absolutely tremendous. But I will tell you as well, if we did invent a universal translator, one thing I will guarantee you, just like everything else on this planet, it will not understand a Hull accent. I'm telling you that. Even Alexa hasn't mastered it yet. Right, okay, moving on. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching. Go on.
We do go. Okay, sorry.
No,
Just before we do go, I'm just thinking back to 20 years ago with video calling. You know, that seemed out of the box
True.
thinking to be able to make a video call or walk in and saying, computer, lights on. These are all things that were
I
out of the
agree.
box.
No, I
So
agree.
Shut up,
reckon-
BK.
Yeah. Do you know, one of the things that I really remember, was, again, I'm going back to something of my childhood, the first ever episode of Pokemon. Ash spoke to, what was he called? Professor Oak. I'm doing really well with names here. And he spoke to him by a video link. And I thought that was magical, and I thought that was amazing. That was one of the first times that I can remember thinking about, oh my God, that would be amazing if we could actually see the person that we were talking to. And as Minnie said, we have got that. I am going to shut you all up now, and I'm going to end the pod. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening. It's been an absolute pleasure. We are available on all major podcast platforms. So please, if you are listening, especially if you're listening on YouTube, because you won't count as a metric for the podcast if you are listening to us on the YouTube channel. So please go and use whichever podcast platform you like to use and go and download the podcast. You don't have to listen to it again, but you can if you want. That would be amazing. Please leave us a review while you're there. That would be amazing. You can find all of our tools that are available from Stewie Doo and the charts that are from Silvis and our special guest tonight, JulesVern. You can find all of those in our Discord. Link to that is down below, and it's also available on itslube.com. Also on itslube.com, you can find our Twitch links for myself and Minnie Mabel. Obviously, I am itslube on Twitch and also on YouTube as well. All feedback is welcome. Send us your questions and send us your topics for future shows. If you've not already done so, please consider becoming a member. We have now got low-cost memberships starting at just $3 a month, where you can become a member of the podcast and help support the ongoing development of this podcast on a monthly basis. That will be amazing. And if you choose one of the higher tiers, you do get free merch on a periodic basis. I am going to thank everybody member of the panel from tonight. Thank you so much, Silvers. Thank you, Stewie. Thank you, Minnie. And a huge thank you to our special guest, JulesVern, who has come and stepped in the place of Candy this evening, who will be back in future shows. Have you enjoyed it, Jules?
I have enjoyed it.
Would you fancy coming back again?
I made a chart while we were sitting here.
No, you didn't.
Of course I did.
God, he's absolutely brilliant. Isn't he? What an absolute machine. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you so much to our current members right now. I'll give you a quick shout out as we end. Thank you so much to Andy, Trek Diva, Deja, Sorella, Antares, and Minnie Mabel. Thank you so much. And remember, absolutely everything is better with lube. Take care and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Bye.
Bye.